In this video, I'll show you how to use Excel to find the expected value as well as the standard deviation for discrete random variables. So this is a homework problem number 11, and I've gotten a couple emails on this, so I figured I'd do a quick video on this. This question, very similar, you'll see on the exam as well. So an agency collects demographics concerning the number of people and families per household in a certain country. Assume the distribution of the number of people per household is as shown in the table to the right. Calculate the expected number of people and families per household in the country. And then we'll go ahead and compute the standard deviation of the number of people and families per household as well. So I've already gone ahead and opened up the data set by clicking on the little blue boxes here. And that's the Excel file you see right here. I've added some notes to remind you how the math works, and I'll walk you through the steps. So in part A, we're going to find the expected number of people and families per household. So that's this formula right here. And I've got some notes here in my columns. But essentially, what we're going to do first is multiply our x's by our probability of getting those x's, and then adding all of that up because of this summation symbol. So what I'll do is I'm going to type in equals, and then I'll click on the two boxes that I want to multiply, which is the 2 and the 0.26. And double checking that that looks right, I'll go ahead and hit enter. And then clicking back on that box, I can see a little square in the lower right-hand corner, and I can go ahead and double click that, and it will bring that formula down to the remaining rows, so I don't have to retype it. And if I want to double check, I can click on a box and just see which two numbers got multiplied, and yep, that looks good. So my x and my p of x. And then here's my little note that says I'm going to add up everything in column C. So you can select all of this and then click the little summation button here on the Home tab. Or you could have typed in equals sum, parentheses, and then select the numbers and close parentheses. Either way works. Figure out what your preference is and do that. And so the answer, or the expected number of people and families per household, is 3.58. That's going to be our answer for part A. Then in part B, we're going to take our x's, or the column A, and subtract the expected value we got in part A. So I'll go ahead and type in equals. Then I'll click on the 2 in column A, and all that means is that's the number of people in families per household. And I'll go ahead and do minus. And to avoid any errors, I'm going to go ahead and type in the expected value, the 3.58. Looking at that, it looks correct. I'm going to take my 2 minus 3.58 essentially. I'll go ahead and hit enter. Clicking on that box, I can go ahead and replicate or copy down my formula. You can double click or you can drag carefully. Just note if you double click, it might extend the formula, extra rows that you don't need. You'll just delete those out. But for this example, I'll just drag it down so you can see what that looks like. I carefully drag how many rows I want, and then I'll let go. And so you can see, I always double check. Yep, that looks right. It took my X value in this row, in this case 4 people in a family, and I subtracted the expected value, or the mean. What we're essentially doing here is we're taking each value of X, the number of people that could be in a family, and subtracting the average, subtracting the mean, the 3.58. So that's this column. Then the next column, according to this formula here, so what we've actually done is we took our X's minus our expected value. We did this little part here. The next step in the formula is to square it. So in this column, I'm just going to go ahead and type in equals. I'll click on the value that I just found in column D, and I'm going to go ahead and square it by hitting Shift caret or Shift 6 on the keyboard, and then type in 2 because we're squaring it. And then I'll go ahead and hit enter. And again, I can click on that box and double click the little square to drag the answers down, or carefully with my cursor, click on the little square and then drag it down. And to check, I always will click on one of the boxes just to see, yep, I took that value in the last column and it squared it just like I intended. And I'll go ahead and hit enter to move on. And then, so we have done almost half of the formula. Here, we're going to take what we just did and multiply it by P of X. So the P of X was that column B right here. So that's why I have this note here, multiply your column B with your column E. So I'll type in equals. I'm going to click on the probability in my column B and then multiply. So shift 8 to get the little asterisks. And then my column E, which is just the number right before it. And then when it looks good, double checking, those are the numbers I wanted. I'll go ahead and hit enter. And again, I want to carry that formula down, so quick double click or drag. Now this has a lot of decimals in it. It's not the prettiest. You can always format this to make it cleaner. So I'm going to highlight these and like move my decimals however many places I want. But we're not really done yet, so I don't have to worry too much about rounding. And the nice thing is Excel is very precise. So you've got all the numbers, even if it's rounded, it's still behind the scenes. So the next step, according to this formula, is I need to add up everything we just did. So I'm going to put a little note here that says add up column F. And again, I can select the numbers and click on the summation, or I can do equal sum and then select all my numbers. So this right here is our variance. But the question asked for the standard deviation, which is the very last step, is to square root everything we just did. So I'll put a little note here, square root to find standard deviation. And the easiest way to do that, I mean, you could pull out a calculator or you could just type in equals SQRT, which is the abbreviation for square root, parentheses, and you can click on the variance that we need to square root, or you can type it in, either way works, close parentheses, and then hit enter. And that's how you find our expected value or mean, as well as the standard deviation for discrete random variables. If you have any questions, just let me know.